She going to keep those black women. Those, my husband is not that.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting for Greeneview Local School Board on May 16th, 2024. Would you call the roll, please?
Suzanne Arthur.
Here.
Chris Bailey.
Here.
Scott Powers.
Present.
Megan Smith.
Here.
Jesse Connor. Here. We have a quorum.
Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to extend an invitation for public participation on agenda items.
My name is Sam Hook, live at 54 West Washington, and I went ahead and put my name down. I know you're gonna be talking about some ESSER funds later this evening. As a coach in the district, you know, for all the years I've been here, I definitely see the need for a multi-space facility for our student athletes. I'm just hoping that as you discuss this, that, you know, you're planning on going to the voters in the fall. I'm hoping that whatever you build still goes with the vision of what you're going to do, because I think if you build something that looks like a field house, but isn't the vision of the field house that you have, that's going to be a hard sell to our voters in the fall. I also know that if we do pass anything, we'll probably need something as a stopgap in between before monies can be collected, things can be built. So I understand there's, whether you put the monies here, or you put the monies there, I mean, just in wrestling alone that I'm a part of, I mean, we've grown our high school team, our varsity team. We now have girls varsity, we've got junior high girls, we've got the middle school boys, we've got I mean, that alone is exploding as well. So there's always limited space for all of our athletes to go and do things, you know. In the spring right now, track is using the same space that wrestling still does some workouts. And I know just this past week, there's been damage that was done when track was in there, you know, some things that were broken that belong to other sports. So there's definitely a need. I just hope that the overall vision can be tied into the vision that's being sold to our public when the taxpayers go to vote, so that it doesn't look like a standalone sort of thing, but I also know that we have some tight time constraints on using some of those ESSER funds and trying to build something.
Thank you, Mr. Hood. Any other public participation on agenda items? Hearing none, we will move forward. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as it stands?
Motion.
Jesse. Mrs. Arthur.
Yes.
Mr. Bailey.
Yes.
Mrs. Connor.
Yes.
Mr. Powers.
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we'll move to item 2 for presentation. That would be the 5-year forecast with Mrs. Inga Fisher.
As I normally do, I've given you each a copy of the forecast along with all the notes and assumptions for you to read at your leisure. And once the board approves it, the presentation and the forecast will be posted on the website that the public can view as well. 5-year forecast is a tool that every school district in Ohio uses. It's required to be updated twice a year in November, by the end of November and by the end of May. It is required by Ohio Revised Code, and it gives the Auditor of State and the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce and something that they can see to identify school districts that may be coming into financial difficulty. The forecast, it looks at historical trends and then current factors for the district. The estimates are based on the best available data at this point in time and any laws that are affected in this point in time. Forecast variables can and will change multiple times throughout the year. As I will explain later, I had something that just changed yesterday. So the intent is just to provide a long-range map for financial planning, for financial sustainability and stability, and making sure that we're meeting the needs of the students in the district. The 5-year forecast shows 3 years of actual data, along with 5 years of projected revenues and expenditures for the district's general fund only. The district has many different funds, but this is only for the general fund. We want to see, determine if the district has the potential to incur a deficit in the first 3 years of the forecast. I can't certify this forecast to the state if there is a deficit in those first 3 years. There are 3 main sections of the forecast: revenues and other financing sources, expenditures and other financing uses, and then the cash balance. The first graph that I have here is a snapshot of the operating scenario facing the district over the next few years. Again, there are 3 years of actual history and then 5 projected years of the forecast. The blue line represents the operating revenues of the district. The red line is the expenditures, and then the green line is the cash balance. In FY26, that's when expenditures for the district begin exceeding revenues, and this is called deficit spending. So the deficit spending causes the cash balance of the district to continue to decrease. It begins to drop in FY26, and there are more significant drops in FY27 and 28. The November forecast showed the same trends. This is a snapshot of the revenue section of the forecast, and it breaks it down by the different revenue categories: real estate property tax revenue, public utility, personal property tax revenue, income tax, unrestricted grants, which is our state foundation funding that we can use for any type of operations, restricted grants and aid, which are monies that the state provides to us, but they are earmarked for certain things. We can only spend them on what they say we can spend them on. Some examples of that would be career tech funding. We have student wellness and success funds, gifted funding, ESL, all those type of things. The state share property taxes is the line item where the state reimburses us for the homestead and rollback deductions from property taxes that property owners can take. Then all other revenues is the catch-all for everything else. That's where our donations are go, school fees, rental income if we have any, our interest on our accounts is in there. This pie graph it shows the different categories of revenues, and it gives a percentage of the total revenues that each category is. 48.23% of Greeneview's operating revenue comes for the state of Ohio, and 51.77% of the operating revenue comes from local sources, whether it be property taxes, income tax, and then other local monies. This year, income tax revenue is 15.22% of operating revenue. And actually, in the November forecast, what we projected is greater than what we are actually receiving for this fiscal year. It's 2.47% less than our original estimate. But the entire state has seen a decrease. It's an average of around 0.43%. Because of that, we decided that instead of, I had 3% built in for each year for an increase for income tax, I lowered that to 2% for each year, just because of the uncertainty of inflation and things like that. As I mentioned, unrestricted grants and aid, or our state foundation monies, are what is approved in each state budget. We are currently working with House Bill 33, and that state budget continued the implementation of the Fair School Funding Plan for FY24 and FY25. Those are years 3 and 4 of a potential 6-year phase-in. The current funding formula uses FY 22 statewide average district costs, and then other factors that impact our local capacity are using FY 2024 values. The four main factors that influence the state basic aid for our calculation are the student population and demographics, our property tax values, personal income tax or personal income of the district residents, and then any type of caps or guarantees that were in place before, prior to this funding formula. The three guarantees that are included in this funding formula, both temporary and permanent law, ensure that the district will not get fewer funds in FY 24 and 25 that it did in FY 21. Since state revenue is approximately 48% of our total revenue, and that's nearly half of the operating revenues for the district, we have to keep an extremely close eye on the upcoming state budgets. We have, there's no guarantee that they will continue the fair school funding plan. And so because of that, I kept my state funding level for the rest of the forecast because I have FY 25 and 26 and 27, 28. So two state budgets that are going to influence this forecast.
When is the next one?
25, 26, 27. No, wait, yeah. Yes. And so once we have more concrete data to work with, then we can adjust the forecast. I wanted to include this graph because enrollment is included in the calculation for our state funding. This shows that our enrollment has been declining. In FY 13, our enrollment was 1350, and for FY 24, we're estimated to be 1249. Excuse me. That is a loss of 101 students in 12 years. I do know that the incoming kindergarten class is quite a few students larger than this current year, so that's a good thing. The state funding no longer uses ADM. It's based on only those kiddos that we're actually educating in our district, or that are being educated in our district. We still don't know what effect, if any, the Honda plan is going to have on our enrollment. So again, we'll just keep our eyes and ears open to see what will happen with that. Property tax revenue represents 31% of our total operating revenue. And this pie chart just gives a breakdown of the different categories of that. And as it's demonstrated by this graph, our district continues to be predominantly residential and agricultural. In our district, property values are established by Greene County, Clinton County, and Fayette County. But because the majority of our district is in Greene County, that is our county of record. The 2023 update for Greene and Clinton counties increased the overall values of the district by 91.81 million or 40.63%. The next reappraisal for both Greene and Clinton will occur in 26 and for collection in FY 27. Because we feel that these huge increases that we've gotten are an anomaly, anomaly, thank you. We've only built in a 5% increase in for that time frame, and that's what we've been seeing in the past until this one huge increase. And many people around the state just feel that this is just a one-time elephant in the room type of situation. The increase also does not include any new construction. So again, we're going to keep a close eye on any new developments that begin building in the district. In Ohio, we will be at the 20 mil floor in FY 25. And what that means is we will get any increases in property tax revenue. If a district is not at the 20 mil floor because of House Bill 920, the school district never receives more money from property taxes, because as the property values increase, the county auditor cuts the tax rate so that we receive the same amount of money that was originally passed by that levy. Again, because of these huge increases, and it's across the state, it's statewide, the legislature has formed a joint committee on property tax review and reform. The committee is still meeting, and the results are still pending as of today. So we're watching the deliberations closely to see how that could affect future reappraisals and the 20 mil floor and things like that. Moving on to expenditures. This is the same type of view like the revenues. It shows the different categories of our revenue, or expenditures rather. Personnel services, which is our salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies and materials, capital outlay, and then debt service and other objects. This graph is that same one like this shows the different categories of expenditures and the percentage of each category. As with most districts, our largest category of expenditures is salary and benefits. For Greeneview, that accounts for 72.25% of the district's expenditures.
Question?
Sure.
The capital outlay in 24 and 26, is that the buses?
Yes, I'll get there.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. So this graph shows a steady increase in all categories of expenditures over the life of the forecast. Within the personal services line, the base wage increases that we had negotiated for 24 and 25 are included in here, as well as the changes we had to make sure that our salary schedules were compliant with state minimum teachers' salaries. We know that we need to work on our salary schedules. So we have built in percentage wage increases along with percentage step increases for 25, 26 through 28. So STRS and SCRS and Medicare are based on salaries. So as our salaries increase, those expenditures will also increase. We continue to be part of the EPC Insurance Consortium. And for calendar year 24, there was an increase of 7.5% in insurance premiums. And I had originally built 10% for the remainder of the forecast. And this is where I got information yesterday. It was only going to be 7%. So I modified the forecast to make sure that we could model that. I did continue a 10% increase in 26 through 28 though, just in case. I've kept a 5% increase across the forecast for utilities and materials and supplies. And then our contracted services that the district uses for various instructional support, our maintenance agreements, our security services, all of those continue to increase every year. So I've made sure to build that into the forecast. As far as our capital purchases, the buses that we ordered in FY23 are finally getting delivered. So the cost of those buses was moved to FY24, and then that's going to be 4 buses. We are paying for it partially through a school bus subsidy from the state, part through permanent improvement funds, and then the rest comes out of the general fund. We've already ordered 2 more buses this year, but we don't anticipate that they'll be delivered until FY26. This shows the ending fund balance for all years of the forecast. And as you can see, the district maintains a positive balance for all years, although after FY25, you can see that it decreases every year. Then my final slide shows the days of operating cash for the district. GFOA recommends between 60 and 90 days of operating cash at fiscal year end. The district is above or at this value until FY28. To summarize, the district has a positive cash balance through the end of fiscal year 28 if the assumptions that we have made are on target. House Bill 33 continued our implementation of the Fair School Funding Plan. So we have to keep close eye on FY26 and 27 budget and 28 and 29 budget bills to see what effect this is going to have on state funding for all school districts. We're going to have to keep an eye on our income tax collections, dependent on the economy and the unemployment rate. The district begins deficit spending in FY '26, which causes the cash balance to decrease each year. I'll continue to be conservative with the estimates, but in FY '26, the district is going to have to look for more ways to either generate revenue, whether it be an income tax levy, a property tax levy. Otherwise, we're going to have to implement cost cutting measures to make sure that we maintain a positive forecast. My final disclaimer. The forecast is obviously impossible to predict entirely accurately. My goal is to be realistic with what has happened in the past for the district and what I anticipate is going to happen. And there are funding unknowns, changes in law that I have to make sure and keep an eye on to and implement those throughout the forecast.
Thank you, Inga.
You're welcome. Does anyone have any questions?
Should I go first?
Did you see the red? I saw the red, thank you.
So the committee that is delivering,
Yes.
so are they trying to decide, like, should they not be charging as much? Like, how is that gonna affect our school?
They're looking at everything. They're looking at changing House Bill 920 with the 20 mil floor. They're looking at if they can put a limit on how much values can go up. I mean, they're looking at all scenarios. They've had testimony from all of the school associations. They've had testimony from villages, townships, from the County Auditors Association. So they're listening to everyone to kind of come to what they hope is a good consensus for this.
Okay, and no ETA on that?
No, there was another, I know there's another hearing on the 22nd, I believe. And I can't remember what group that's with, but the last one that they had last week was villages and townships.
And it's the state legislature?
Mhm.
When do they break? For the
I
Senate?
don't know the answer to that.
I wonder if they'll come to a resolution before then. Probably not. They're not as.
I can find out though.
Any other questions?
I just have one. And it's not to be answered today. It'll probably take a little some research maybe.
Sure.
Just thinking about salary and benefits is that's always something that's the most sensitive, one of the most sensitive topics and most important topics.
Sure.
You talked about, you said it's 72.25% of our expenditures
Mhm.
approximately. And I did some just rough math on, it's looks like in fiscal year 2024, it's about 60% of our revenue. If I added it right.
Okay.
So I'm curious if we can get some of that data on other school districts to know, like, are our salaries overall lower because it's a smaller percentage of our expenditures? Or is it based on the amount of revenue that we have? Like, where is that line, or where is that, what we can control? How does that fit into that?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Just curious. 'Cause
Okay.
I never really thought about it that way.
Any other thoughts or questions?
Well done, Mia. Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Hearing nothing, we will move on to the treasurer's report. A, approve the minutes of the regular board meeting from April 18th, 2024. B, approve the 5-year forecast for May 2024. C, approve the April financial reports. D, approve April month-end advances. E, approve adjusted estimated receipts for April 2024. F, approve amended appropriations for April 2024. G, approve new fund Greeneview High School class of 2028. 200-9028. H, approve donations as listed. $500 from the Greeneview Middle School PTO for PBIS rewards. $500 from Greeneview Middle School PTO for Reward Day. $300 from the Greeneview Academic Boosters for the Academic Booster Scholarship at Greeneview High School. $300 from the Greeneview Middle School PTO for the PTO Scholarship at Greeneview High School. $1,000 from the Silver Creek Fire Department for the Todd Gehringer Memorial Scholarship and the Silver Creek Fire Department Scholarship at Greeneview High School. $300 from Gregory and Constance Van Zant for the Terry Pickering Memorial Scholarship at Greeneview High School. $1,500 from Jamestown Youth Football for the Youth Football Cheer Scholarship at Greeneview High School. $500 from James and Jennifer Ayers for the Adam Ratliff Memorial Scholarship at Greeneview High School. $250 from Shannon Carter for the Dolores Persinger and Mia Griffin Scholarship at Greeneview High School. So thank you to everyone for those.
2028 not have the class fund.
No, because they, like, as the new year starts and we have to add the freshman new
I
class.
thought they started this before.
No,
Okay.
Any other questions? I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report, items A through H as presented.
We have it.
I'll second.
Mr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yeah,
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
and Mrs. Arthur.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Agenda item 4, superintendent's update, A, teaching and learning, B, facility, C, operations.
Thank you. For teaching and learning, our district leadership team met for the last time this month, and we took the time to look at the spring data that was made available to us and started talking about planning for the 2024-2025 school year. Most notably is the growth that we've seen from our students, especially at the elementary level. As a building, they actually reached their growth goal, which was well over 120% growth, sitting at 143% growth for the building. So what you would expect for a year's worth of growth from a typical student, if you will, is 100%. That equals a year's growth. So 143% tells us that hopefully we are picking up students who are further below grade level and closing learning gaps. So that's what that data tells us. 150% would be like a year and a half worth of growth. So almost there. And the building celebrated this week by bouncy houses in the gym during their PE time, which was a huge success and a huge motivator, I'm sure, for next year as well. It was very popular. It was wild.
I
but it was
think
very
my
popular.
invitation got lost in the mail. I didn't get an invitation for that.
We have big work next year, which I've talked about previously about, we have a K-12 math adoption as well as ELA professional learning for the science of reading, especially in grades 4 through 12. So we talked in more specifics about that and what that will look like for the upcoming year. Proud to say that our curriculum purchases have been completed for the year and a plan put into place. And I believe for the first time in a long time that most tier 1 curriculum, we have tier 1 curriculum in all areas, K through 12, all grade levels, departments, that should be ready to go for our teachers next year. So if something slipped through the cracks, I'm not aware of it. So pretty proud of that, and I appreciate Mrs. Fisher working with the budget, like how do we spend out this year curriculum dollars? And also like wait until that new year to make sure that we could get everything that we needed. So that's, again, I'm really proud of that our teachers are going to have the appropriate resources, at least at a tier 1 level, and even some for intervention materials. Wildly, the OST data is out already for math, science, and social studies, which is an interesting time of year as we're trying to close out school. And we feel like there's a race against time. So we haven't had the opportunity, or I'll speak for myself, I haven't had the opportunity to look at that data yet. So we'll come back around in June and share how we did on the state assessments. Again, our summer boost programming is still scheduled for June 3rd through the 21st for students entering grades 1 through 4. Registration took place through Parent Square. Our numbers are a little low as compared to previous years. So we have some personal invitations out there, and if somehow it got by our families, they can certainly contact their child's teacher, and we have space available. Award ceremonies are taking place this week and also next week. We celebrated our seniors this Tuesday morning for all of their accomplishments. And the Greene County's senior ceremony was also Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock. As part of the third quarter students of the month got by me, so I would like to take a moment to first share the names of the students of the quarter or month as they do at the middle school. And then I would like to share with you the senior accomplishments that were shared at the senior ceremony and will be shared tomorrow night at graduation. So for third quarter, students of the month at the middle school, January, fourth grade, Ivan Kemp, fifth grade, Carter Wilson, sixth grade, Peyton Gillum, and seventh grade, Tyler Brown. February, fourth grade, Scarlett Mulliken, fifth grade, Logan Worth, sixth grade, Owen Sutter, seventh grade, Avea Payton. March, fourth grade, Sophia Davis, fifth grade, Hunter Bach, sixth grade, Kinley Guest, seventh grade, Bryson Levin. And for the high school, students of the quarter for the third quarter, grade 8, Gabrielle Burkett. Ninth grade, Kiera Kip, 10th grade, Kennedy Cummings, 11th grade, Michelle Miller, and 12th grade, Eva Moore. Our senior accomplishments for the class of 2024. 55 students attended the Greene County Career Center, 29 plan to attend a 4-year college, 24 plan to attend a 2-year college or trade school, 5 will go directly into the armed services, 23 will go directly into the workforce, 10 seniors are members of National Honor Society. National Honor Society completed 1,656 hours of community service. 3 seniors are National Vocational Technical Honor Society members. We have 4 seniors graduating tomorrow summa cum laude and 4 graduating magna cum laude. 20 seniors also earned a diploma with honors. 9 of our Career Center seniors earned a Career Tech diploma with honors. 1 senior is a Greene County Career Center Student of Excellence. 16 earned a Red Cord for 3 or more blood donations. We had 3 OHC champions, 1 All-Ohio, 9 senior athlete awards, 32 Greeneview Scholar athletes, 36 OHC Scholar athletes, 16 first team OHC, 7 second team OHC, 5 honorable mention, 3 players of the year, 3 sectional championships, 1 district qualifier, 4 all area district third team, 4 student athletes all area district second team, 2 all area district first team, 1 regional qualifier, and our graduating class has earned over $1.5 million in scholarships, with over $310,000 coming from our local scholarships. So kudos to our seniors and to those who also give for scholarship opportunities, especially those here locally.
I do have graduated.
How many exactly do we have?
99.
99. Facilities and operations, I'm gonna clump these all together as, the topics kind of fit together a little bit here. First, just odds and ends, I did want to share that I connected with the OSBA, and I'll be, asking what times work best for you for a board governance workshop to take place over the summer. I also received some questions the last couple days about the community eligibility provision we call CEP, which provides an option for eligible schools to offer meals at no cost through a reimbursement program. Regulations for this provision were actually changed this year, and it puts Greeneview schools in a different category, a category of eligibility where we had not been there before. So Mrs. Fisher and myself are certainly seeking to understand what is a part of that. And so we'll be exploring this opportunity, and we still have time to apply once we understand more and if it makes sense for our district to do that. Other odds and ends, we started, you can see that there's a tank out here next to the field, and they have started doing work on the field to improve its conditions. We will have seal coating done this summer at the middle school, and there's still a little bit over by the high school that still needs to be completed. And I'm forgetting something that I was also going to mention. It'll probably strike me as I keep going. The seal coating, the field. Oh, our rekey project is probably set to take place at the end of June, potentially the beginning of July, but we're trying to get it in the last weeks in June and confirming with Oak, who is going to do the rekey project. So tonight, under the discussion items, one of the first item that is on the agenda makes reference to the November ballot issue. So I wanted to share with you some details here. Also that we found out about the OFCC, as we shared previously, the law had changed. And where school district initially had 13 months to secure funding, with the new House bill, they moved that to 16 months. But you still need approval from the OFC. So the OFCC indicated that the commission is working to approve a resolution to extend that program for the terms in November 2024. The commission is looking to officially vote on that at their May 23rd meeting, so we should know soon. I've received no information that there should be issues or problems associated with that. But like I said, that we will know soon. There is some good news in that as for the funding, even though there are, 2025 costs are more than 2024 costs, that we would remain the same for the funding that was approved in July, as the resolution that you originally passed in July would be extended. So we don't anticipate any changes with the dollar amounts. From my perspective, here's what I would propose to the board to have discussion about. Here, we have some options. One, do we go to the ballot in November, provided the opportunity, the commission approves on the 23rd and takes a vote? When do we go to the ballot? A follow-up from that, if we do go to the ballot, then what does that look like? Two ways to look at it, I think, are to continue with the same plan, but split up the elementary from the athletic pieces, such that there would be two items on the ballot to vote on. Still yet another option would be to put the elementary only on the ballot. There's another option. I'm not sure what that would look like. And again, I know you're gonna have discussion. So, elementary only could be another way to do that. You could argue there is feedback from our community that, actually, I think you could argue probably all of those points to some extent, but, so I'll let you have the discussion. My original thoughts is that I do lean toward, this is my opinion only, I do lean toward doing the elementary school only, back on the ballot, and, also looking at the idea of the multi-purpose space. But again, I look forward to hearing from you. So, the second item, which I guess relates to the ballot issue too, to some extent, is the ESSER conversation, Mr. Hook also spoke to earlier. So I wanted to share with you, some of the history of the ESSER funds that are still available to the district. So the unspent ESSER dollars were allocated in fiscal year 22, originally to address the heating, cooling, ventilation, restroom and plumbing issues at the current field house. This was a problem that was presented to myself specifically at the beginning of my superintendency. I've provided copies of the approved ESSER applications at your chair if you wish to also reference them. The issues needed addressed, but so did the condition of our aging elementary school. And so at that time had reached out to the OFCC, and once we were informed by the OFCC that we were up for funding for a final segment to a master facility plan, it made sense, as determined by the community advisory team, the CAT, that we would fold a field house into the Greeneview's master facility plan, which would then ultimately become our ballot issue. So the unspent remaining ESSER funds, a little over $1 million at that time, then was decided by the district to be reserved to help offset, again, the original intention of those dollars was to address the current field house. And so the thought at that time was then those dollars we would hold on to, and that they would help offset the cost of the proposed field house associated with the ballot issue. Unfortunately, we were not successful with the ballot issue, and now we are pressed to obligate funds by September 30th of 2024 and spend them out, liquidate them by the end of the year. However, districts can work with their state to apply for what's called a late liquidation extension. And that if that's approved, then you get an additional 18 months after the obligation deadline to liquidate the funds. So with that approved extension, that puts us somewhere, I think, around March of 26, if I'm counting correctly, or at least that's the date that was shared to our ESSER consultants. At this time, so obligating the funds in our mind is not the issue. Probably liquidating them is where it's like, okay, like, is that the timeline? But again, looking at, is there the potential then to receive the extension?
Can I
Yes, ma'am.
Not only do we have to get the approval, for a or the extension from the state, it also has to go through the US Department of Education as well.
The allocations of the ESSER dollars, they can be revised. So they are not locked in to the budget details. Again, I anticipate hearing from you later on the topic, and, you will see tonight that there is a lengthy personnel section to the board agenda. And I believe also in part to our ability to compete with neighboring districts on, salaries, wages. I also know that compensation can affect also staff morale as well. So, I think that is all part of the conversation. So the way I would frame this, my personal, again, suggestion for later in the agenda, the way I would frame this is, in my mind, I see kind of three issues, or three topics to consider in addition to the ballot issue, but it kind of fits in with it, is the context of the availability of those leftover ESSER funds. We have an aging elementary school, one. We have inadequate space and conditions for our student athletes, in my opinion. And we also want to be competitive with compensation for our staff. Again, I look forward to your thoughts tonight. I would propose a starting place for your discussion.
If we ask for the extension, when does that paperwork have to be filed by?
I don't think she told us. She said later in the year.
Within the next couple of weeks, they're gonna provide, what they call a CCIP note that will explain the process of applying for the extension. So I assume in that process, they will.
Have the deadline?
Yes.
Requirements?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's certainly important obviously under the circumstances. Again, I offer just a framework to start your conversation potentially. Again, one, we have an aging elementary school. Go back to the ballot in November, elementary school only. It could be one way to do it. Two, the space and conditions for our student athletes to continue forward, although there are still some ifs and contingencies. And, we even have differing opinions about like how it should be done between the design professionals and legal counsel. So that is still being even teased out as we speak. To look at the multi-purpose space, in my opinion, again, it does not impede the future vision of the district. It has been designed such that wrestling could use it. So, and again, there's a draft in front of you. There's a draft at your chair that I would call a draft, because it is essentially what our current design professionals, SHP, believe $1 million can get us. Which is the square footage, and in addition, girls' locker room, a boys' locker room, one restroom. And, I think there's like an office / something. Again, that is free anything. That is a sketch and that is a draft of what they think.
Doesn't look like there's a way to get to it from the inside.
No, it is, again, as it is sketched out currently, it is a freestanding structure that would sit next to, there's like an L where the ag room and the gym is, such that it could function as a separate structure, like wrestling and basketball share the same season. There's girls and boys in both of those sports. So you would have access to the facility without going through the building, or even if you need to get in the building, that you're not going all over the building, that it's right there where the other athletic pieces would
So
exist.
if we were going to use that space for state testing,
Yes,
kids would have to go outside and come back.
yeah. Yeah. I could see uses like for softball and baseball in the spring, or, really band when it's raining. I know you all know too, our facilities are used all the time after school and on the weekends as well. It could, so community access as well. I will still mention that that is in the process and in the works. So this is the drawing we have at the time. And, what I've come to figure out with design and construction is that there are always surprises, even in my own home. And then the third piece, competitive compensation, you know, we do have a date set with the GEA of June 12th to begin at least salary discussions about how we do prepare for negotiations. There's a process in place to that for, I would say, a more permanent solution as we move forward. So there's a challenge to prioritize, for me at least, I know for myself, one above the other. That particular starting point does address all of them in an appropriate way. So with that, I just wanted to share my thoughts for your discussion later and offer any additional information that might help facilitate that conversation. That concludes my superintendent.
Thank you. Number 5, new business. A, approve updated board policies. They should be listed in the agenda, so no need to read them all aloud.
No, ma'am.
Can I have a motion to approve those board policies?
Motion. Second.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Susan.
And then Chris.
Okay. Mrs. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Powers.
Yeah,
Motion passes.
Thank you for your work on that. A lot of work.
Yeah.
It was,
Really appreciated the highlight and the color changes, the strike out for the things that changed.
Yes, that's very helpful.
It was very helpful.
You're welcome. It was helpful to go through them. I mean, as well. So it was a healthy process. That was big.
Move on to item 6, personnel. A, approve the following classified substitutes for seasonal work for summer 2024. Steve Morris, Billy Travis, Rebecca Vogel, Daniel Pinzer. B, approve Dalton Pate and Lori Boland for summer program coordinators for summer 2024. C, approve the following certified teachers for summer programming for summer 2024. Robin Sweet, Danny Klusterman, Paul Thompson, Dale Vincent, Heather Brooks, Danielle Brinkman, Faye Bernard, Regina Heim, Emily Miller, Debbie Campbell, Anita Mays, Dawn Wimbold, and Courtney Jones. D, approve the following classified staff for summer programming for summer 2024, Karen Lane. E, approve the following certified contract recommendations. 3-year limited contracts, Molly Beam, Faye Bernard, Ashley Bowling, Amy Evans, Kyle Falk, Marie Gill, Michelle Hopeboat, Amy Johnson, Danny Klusterman, Trent Olds, Dustin Sharp, Paul Thompson, Lucinda Wilson. 2-year limited contracts, Alyssa Bachman, Emily Edsel, AJ Houseman, Sarah Beth Engel, Jody Luck, Ashley Nichols, Katie Stump. Continuing contracts, Amy Atkins, Dale Vinson, Janet Wheeler, Winnie Callowert. F, approve the following classified contract recommendations. Continuing contracts, Jessica Bryant, Steve Miller, Julia Moore, Cynthia Rutherford. 2-year limited contracts, Amy Allen, Ruth Barron, Lindsay Campbell, Jessica Davidson, Samantha Fisher, Jennifer Gilbert, Tony Goodbar, Brian Heron, Wade Hutchinson, Karen Lane, Melissa Litkey, Beth Neville, Al Phillips. 1-year limited contracts, Jade Brandenburg, retire, rehire, Brenda Day, retire, rehire, Kylie Walker. G, approve an administrative contract for Mr. Todd Nolan, middle school principal, 2-year contract effective August 1st, 2024, at a salary in accordance with approved administrative salary schedule. H, approve an administrative contract for Angela Bryant, library and digital media coordinator, 2-year limited contract effective August 1st, 2024, at a salary in accordance with approved administrative salary schedule. I approve the following supplemental contracts for the 2024-2025 school year. Connor Myers, color guard director, Billy Harchick, varsity head boys basketball coach. J, approve the retirement of high school math teacher Thomas Burr effective July 31st, 2024. K, approve the retirement of elementary school secretary Diana Hart effective June 1st, 2024. L, approve Allison Ashby, grade 7, intervention specialist, 1-year limited contract, step 7, masters, effective July 1st, 2024. M, approve Katrina Scaletta, grade 5, intervention specialist, 1-year limited contract, step 9, masters, effective July 1st, 2024. And approve the resignation of Jason Neri, high school custodian, effective May 15th, 2024. L, approve the resignation of Connor Parnell, high school custodian, effective May 15th, 2024. P, approve the resignation of Anna Keaton, middle school teacher, effective June 30th, 2024. Q, approve the resignation of Leah Godlove, gifted intervention specialist, effective June 30th, 2024. R, approve the resignation of Lauren Swaim, elementary school teacher, effective June 30th, 2024. S, approve the resignation of Christy Fairchild, middle school building aide, effective May 24th, 2024. T, approve the resignation of Michelle Wellborn, elementary school cook, effective June 30th, 2024. U, approve personnel items A through T as presented.
Are there any questions?
Can you remind us of the vetting and interview process, as far as internal, external, single interview, committee interview on these approvals?
For the administrative,
Sure.
so for the middle school principal, there were 2 rounds of interviews. 33 individuals applied through our consortium. We interviewed 6 of those candidates. 3 were external, 3 were internal. From an interview team that was partial, I'd say 50%. There was a 6-person interview team. 3 of those were administrators or peers, if you will, or what would be peers for the principal, and 3 were staff members in the building. There was a second round of different people. That first round was, I would say, traditional questions, interview questions, whereas the second round was more like hypothetical and scenarios of what would exist in the job. The library and digital media coordinator, which I also want to actually remind, is that that particular position is funded by the Jamestown, 100% by the Jamestown Area Foundation, through the generosity of the Weston Bullock family that were able to do that. That committee was also composed of a representation from each building, those that would potentially be most closely working with the coordinator as well. There were 19 individuals who applied through our consortium. Again, we interviewed 6. We had also some internal there. The first round of interviews was traditional interview questions, and the second round of interviews was a pitch of the first 90-day plan for setting up the program and then future goals. So I think that covers it.
Thank you.
So not specific to any particular person, but did you see any trends in the resignations? Like
Trends?
personal reasons, pay, anything that we should know as a
I
board?
feel like some are moving. It classified staff speaks to me mostly, in terms, we have 3 open custodial positions right now. We have, I'm gonna speculate, at least 2 or 3 that cited increased pay. I can't make a direct correlation, but I can make an assumption. Some are moving, some decided stay-at-home moms, so there is a variety, but I guess at a high level, that's what I would.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions?
No.
Can I have a motion to approve personnel items A through T as presented?
You have it.
Second?
Mr. Powers,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Before we go on, I did want to recognize, I think Ms. Scaletta is here this evening, so give a wave. Welcome to Greeneview Schools, grade 5 intervention specialist. So thank you for coming this evening. And also Mr. Nolan and Mrs. Bryant are here. I didn't know if you wanted to share a few words. You don't have to, but certainly if you would like. The evening.
It's nice to meet you. I've enjoyed these past 3 years of teaching 8th grade English here at Greeneview High School and developing relationships with the staff and the students. And I'm very excited to be stepping into this position. In my previous school district, I taught in a career and technical education academy where I integrated in with English, also photography, digital media, and worked with many career academies. So I'm really excited about the potentials of transforming our library spaces and also creating programming to bring into classrooms to create more access and opportunity. So thank you all so much for this opportunity.
Welcome.
Congratulations. Your turn.
Todd Nolan, thank you, first of all, to the board for, considering and Dr. Woodruff for allowing me to interview, for this position. It was not something that was, really in my sights, but life has changed, chapters have closed and, through talking and with the support of my wife, we decided that this was the direction that I needed to go. I'm closing my 30th year out at Greeneview. Looking at the board, I've had some of you as students, I've had your kids, I've had your spouses. So somehow I've impacted your family in some way, hopefully positive. But I do look forward to, moving forward with the district vision and mission and the opportunity to help rebuild a solid staff, rebuild, trust and with the community and kindle relationships with the community. And, I guess more importantly, Greeneview has given so much to me and my family. And so I'm excited for the opportunity to give back to Greeneview. This has been my family. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Okay, move on to number 7, which is for discussion. We have the November ballot issue, ESSER dollars, and any updates. Who'd like to start? Thank you, Dr. Woodruff, for laying out some of the options, talking points, things that we should consider. We appreciate, a general outline for that to keep us on track. Any thoughts on what we should dive into first?
I'm afraid to put a 2 levy option out there because I'd hate to see the athletic piece pass. 1, because it's cheaper. But 2, we're academics. We're here for athletics. I just think we ought to go through elementary. So it's the
Do you think the elementary has a better chance of passing if it's on just by itself or if it is separated from the athletics?
I think if we give them one option, hey, we need to go with the elementary, that's the pending need. I think that has a better chance. Most of the feedback I got from the community is you got a perfectly fine football field out there. Do some cosmetic work to the athletic center. We're done.
I think, in my opinion, we should offer whatever options we can to the voters. I think it's our job to make sure that we're being good stewards and providing fiscally responsible options to the community and then letting them decide. But that's just my own opinion, is that maybe we should consider, both, but certainly open for discussion on that.
Do we have any data from the consultants about, 2 levies on the ballot versus 1? what that would do historically, just how people, what people do.
Yeah, I don't know if there's hard data, but there is a general,
opinion.
I would say, I'll speak for superintendents. That generally you're going to be more successful with an academic ballot issue than a combined or an athletic only. Is that fair to say? Also, when we spoke with bond council, I would say our levy committee would have an opinion on that too, about some of the feedback, maybe about when they sent out the survey about like, feel like there are some that would think that the athletics should not be on there. I also think that you're gonna run into people who also value athletics very much. So I do feel like in our community, that's a little trickier than a general blanket statement about what usually does and does not pass.
What do you think?
I feel like if you put two on, if you feel like a no to one, you're gonna say no to both. That's my concern. Like if somebody looks at it and they're like, it's a no for me to this, it's just no. And the feedback, most of the feedback was, if you give it to me for academics, I'll pass it, but I'm not passing more for athletics.
So for athletics, you were talking about, the approved extension for late liquidation, and you were gonna get the timeline. So what if we decided we were gonna try for that and then it wasn't approved or those funds just lost?
We have to figure out how else to spend them, because we are allowed to revise the budget.
So we would have an answer before September 30th,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I would think so.
because we'd have to obligate and then move quickly to actually spend. So by spend, does that mean like have someone in a contract sign bid for the work? Or
We have to actually have spent out the money. We have to be invoiced for the services and spend the money.
that's a tight timeline?
Yeah. I think the obligating by the September 30 is not the issue. It's liquidating, so it absolutely is contingent upon an approval for liquidation. How do you get approval for liquidation? All we know is that we would have to submit the documents that could essentially prove that these are my words, what you said you were gonna use the money on is how they're gonna be spent out. So contracts, bids, et cetera, all the paperwork that would be associated with obligating funds and then moving forward.
But you said that money could be reassigned for other purposes if we decided not to use it for.
Correct. Up until, I wanna say September 4th.
That's what she said today,
Something like
yes.
that. So
But
you
if,
did get to a point where you're out of wiggle room.
if we did take the athletic building off of the ballot, we'd almost have to use it over there to bring the bathrooms up to date and the concession area and ventilation, correct?
It depends on what you wanna use the dollars on, yes. It could,
We wouldn't have to reclass.
funds could be used over here too.
In addition to the multi-purpose.
I think this would be tight, but I think that you could do some basic things over here with the plumbing. The plumbing needs addressed, period. There are plumbing issues over there. I think we could do some things with large fans, some cosmetic things that could improve the state of the building. You also have to keep in mind, like there's a dance, if you will, of how much you do, because once you touch certain things in that building, now you're talking about code and permits, et cetera, which we would not do well with. I mean,
But to your point, as far as reallocating the funds, that would be the same type of category, yes.
Correct. So we've already classified it.
oh, sorry, yeah, sorry. that was-
No,
Yeah.
Going back to the issue of the ballot and either splitting or just doing elementary or whatever, are we kind of, if we just go elementary, are we then kind of undermining some of the work of the CAT committee who kind of brought it together of having both of them? And if by separating them, it seems like you're still, like I said, bringing the options that everybody decided was needed, but allowing people the flexibility to, if they're so passionate about one versus the other, they can make that choice. It's just
Now, I was on the CAT committee and my impression was, hey, we need to do the elementary. If we can get that passed, these are luxury items. So I mean, from my perspective as a member of the CAT committee, I would not be offended by us saying, you know what, we tried it twice.
Mhm.
We didn't get it. Let's go with what the initial project was. That's me. Oh,
I was on it as well, and I would say there were passionate people on both sides for the strictly academic portions and then more on the athletic leaning side. I kind of agree that it could look a little bit insensitive towards the work of that committee. But I think we probably also have to look at how it's landed too so far. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is a tough one. I mean, like I said, I think it's good to give people options, but I mean, Jesse made a good point. Sometimes if you're no for everything, so. And that was the majority of the feedback I got was, I'm just not spending any more money. It didn't have anything to do with what it was buying.
Right, for those people, it doesn't matter if you have two or one,
Exactly.
so that means nothing.
Yeah.
Right, so we're not really going for those voters, because we're not gonna get it anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, I just, I don't know.
What do you think, Suzie?
I tend to lean toward having both on there and then people can say what they want. The ones that are willing to, or passionate about one or the other or both can choose to vote for one or the other or both.
playing devil's advocate.
Go ahead. That's what I expect from you, Scott.
What happens if the athletic piece passes? Doesn't?
I don't know.
The community spoke,
Well,
I mean,
yes, the community spoke, I get that, but what's the more pressing need?
well, I
guess
understand,
that-
yeah,
I
well,
mean, I
that's the
love
first, yeah.
athletics, I mean.
Oh, sure.
I supported when we were talking about in the CAT committee, but, being in that building and the fact that it keeps breaking down, it's like you said, it's a toss-up, but I would feel awful with the one piece passed, the other one didn't, and then there's no way in the next couple of years that we're ever gonna get an elementary pass.
What, see, I was gonna say something you just made me think about is if the scenario played out, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if athletics passed, we don't lose our 62-38 with the OFCC because the athletics was all LFIs to begin with. So we go to the bottom of the list and we would theoretically, the ODU doesn't change it, and we would theoretically have another attempt available when our turn came around.
Although costs would be higher.
Yeah, that,
Sure, everything.
That-
That's
sure.
just the way it works, yeah, that's just the way it works.
Mhm.
and by cost higher, like significantly, I mean, again, we all know. what
I guess
prices are.
what I'm wondering is are there a contingent of voters that we would think that if athletics were on the ballot would vote yes for both, but if it was if it was school only, they would vote no? And would that sway anything? I guess that's the only thought.
If they were gonna vote for yes for both, they would have voted yes already.
Emily, do
Because
you
it was-
have
it was
any
kind of on
data
there
that
as
you
vote,
would
so
like to
that's
share
why
with them or
Yeah.
as part of the discussion?
I guess,
I'm putting you on the
yeah,
spot.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Our question is, you're saying elementary, but are you really meaning elementary middle? When you're
Well,
saying
Like the academic pieces.
Yeah,
Yeah,
academic
it's just the building
piece.
over there.
Right.
That's what we were
Yeah.
questioning.
The
like,
academic
are we waiting
pieces.
for the rest?
We would still add the wing to the high school.
Yeah, I
For
should-
5-8.
Yeah.
We would
It would
still add
just
the
be
Wing
separated
to the
from the
middle, wing to, or not, additions to
the
the
middle school.
middle
wing to the high school.
for pre-K 4. Thanks, that's a good clarification. And then the wing to the high school for the 5-8.
I mean, you all have said what we've heard. It's hard because we've heard both sides.
Yeah, that's.
You know, I'm not voting because of the field house, but then a lot of it was I'm not paying money. So that is, you know, like Jesse said, straight no, well, everyone wants straight no, no matter what it was, because they didn't want to pay the money. But there's, I mean, we have encountered all sides, wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that makes me feel it was my same answer. You know, I mean, there's nothing that is like, that's the answer, right? It's clear and that's significant.
Well, you also have to look at our footprint. We go from almost Cedarville to almost Sabina, out to the truck stop. And all that's farmland. A majority of our voters don't even have a child in the district. So we're fighting an uphill battle. Then you throw in the older environment who's on a fixed income. So
Yeah,
you roll the dice, I mean, you don't know where the vote's gonna fall. I don't know how I answer this.
I don't know. Again, my opinion is, what is encouraging is that I do feel through the process that there is a lot of support for our schools that I very much appreciate and amazing, actually. But that is separate from, I am not in a financial position to pay more taxes. And so, so I just wanted to add that piece too, that I didn't get a lot of feedback. If you did, you shoulda, you coulda, if the school district would fix this. It felt very much like it's the state of the financial affairs. Obviously, their taxes just went up.
If, and I'm counting on you to answer this. When we were first doing the estimates, before we added on all the luxury items, the cost per taxpayer was almost equal to what the taxpayer is paying now for the high school. And when the high school fell off,
Great points.
it would be basically a walk.
It's almost like
You got it.
it's almost like a continuing levy.
Right.
Exactly.
Instead of a renewal.
And one would replace the other, and
Right.
maybe even be less.
Yeah. Mr. Hook, do you have hard numbers in your head?
Yeah, it was like 3 some mils, which is what, I mean, we
2.2.
have the ability to do that.
Right.
It's equal. The other thing that I think, if you go for the academic part, right? And that passes. Now, granted, it's gonna take some time for that to then be built. But in the meantime, we've already heard, we don't know, the future is unclear about what's gonna happen with the HUN plan. But if we can pass the academic piece now, it sets us up for the future. If we see growth with students, with our community, versus if we only pass a sports part, it puts us right back behind the 8 ball. By passing the academic part, it shows our community what our vision is for the future and sets us up to be able to grow in the future.
I agree with Sam's points. I think we have to show that we care deeply about the academics. And I think once we get a complex where we have all of the students over on Cottonville and we have that going, and if people see that and it's working, they might be more encouraged to, hey, let's move the athletic field over here. Let's move everything to Cottonville. I think we have to get the kids.
Kind of gives them
Get there
time to
first.
fundraise for some of the part of the cost. Which
Right.
we were hoping for anyway.
It also shows we're listening.
Yeah.
Right? Like we saw the results. We hear you. We're making a big effort to meet you where you are.
So what's your thoughts?
Probably, I would say after winning it all, I would probably, if I was rolling the dice, I would say elementary only would probably be the best chance to get it to pass. If you're trying to flip X amount of voters from the last one.
Just,
My vote's elementary only.
that's my,
Yeah. I don't like taking away people's choices, but I
Yeah,
think
either.
what we're doing right now, being very transparent in the discussion and the planning of it, getting community feedback. I mean, I think we just also, to Mr. Hook's points, need to keep the overall vision in mind, which was not just academics, like really just kind of revamping the district to suit everyone's needs. So, yeah, I mean, definitely, we're not voting on anything right now, but,
Straw poll.
yeah, straw poll, I would probably,
I think that I could support that as long as we definitely still working towards the overall vision of the CAT committee.
I think also, I mean, for me, that if we can take the dollars to put towards some athletic pieces that address the immediate needs, that it is also in alignment with what the CAT team asked for.
So that's
It's not,
step one.
it's not the master facility plan, but at least it addresses what is most urgent, which is like not enough space for our sports to be able to have their own dedicated spaces, yes.
I can't get to do that.
And you're saying with the ESSER dollars?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, to the
Yeah,
tune of,
or
if it's elementary only, then we're still not back, like, but still, what can we as a district do to be responsive to some of our issues? Let's address the plumbing, with those dollars that are there.
While putting on the multi-purpose building.
I'm sorry.
While putting on the multi-purpose building now, guys,
Is there enough dollars to do both?
I think that, I mean, I'm not sure is the answer
it's
to
gonna
that
be
question.
close.
Yeah, it's going to be a journey. Any construction project is a journey.
But if we do, like you said, we put the elementary on. Take the CAT's vision. Step one is the all-purpose building. Step two is maybe in the future that for the athletic center, field and stuff like that, the future.
Which I think is also, just again, forward thinking, it's important to reference it as a multi-purpose building, because when there is a new field house with a weight room and concessions and restrooms and whatever that ultimately ends up looking like, it will probably serve a different purpose. Or maybe it won't, I don't know, but whichever whatever the future holds, we haven't shifted it or impeded it in any way. Maybe wrestling, maybe it works out for wrestling and they love it forever, or, maybe not. Maybe wrestling moves to a field house and that becomes a multi-purpose space, hard to speculate. But I just want to be clear that, like, we have to work through the details with the liquidation, with our attorneys, with our profession, with our design profession. Like, there are a lot of pieces for that to happen. I feel like we have the people willing to do it and to make it happen, but there are a lot of pieces and parts.
Yeah, the timeline is the only part that's super concerning. Like, is there a precedent for this late liquidation extension? Like, have they?
I mean,
done
there's
something?
no, I mean, this, because all those funds are new.
They're putting it out there, they're putting it out there because they're
Other places
anticipating
are running
that's gonna
into-
happen, and they don't want
Make that
people,
assumption.
and they
Why do
don't-
we offer
and they
any
don't want
extensions
people to
if
lose the
don't
money.
need
Right.
extensions?
they don't want people to lose the money, right?
I think that I'm gonna be glass half full on this, because if we can show them, we have had this budgeted for that purpose since fiscal year 22. And the reason that we haven't spent it is because we were trying to get the bond issue or ballot issue passed. That's the reason we haven't spent it. If we can show that to them and explain that to them, I think that's going to increase our chances of them approving the extension.
I'm guessing we aren't doing the school situation.
I would guess not, but.
Which, the purpose, one would believe, for the liquidation in the
Right.
first place. Whether this matters or not, our ESSER consultant has also been extremely responsive, which almost never happens when you're
Right.
dealing with entities and organizations.
Well, if it comes down to timing, we'll get a bunch of community volunteers and watch some YouTube videos, and we'll build it ourselves.
That is
Build it.
also what is beautiful about Greeneview, is that, and you know what, maybe we can't get all of that. So I just want to be real clear about, we have a penciled in plan. And we might get into it and this, I'll use the transportation trailer as an example. The soil was not appropriate, so we had to replace soil, like you just never know what you're gonna run into with a construction project. We think we know about the plumbing, we think we've picked a spot where the plumbing doesn't have to travel so far, and sewage, is that like, so we have a penciled in plan, but until you actually get in there, maybe, maybe that ground doesn't have the best soil and we have to do some things, so there are lots of ways in which it doesn't go perfectly, and we have to, I have to come back and say this didn't go well, or we had to pivot, or we had to do something differently, and we have discussion about that.
How does the ongoing maintenance of a facility like that affect your 5-year forecast? I mean, if it's new, it should be okay for a little while, but we've seen things blow up that weren't that old.
It's pole varnish.
Yeah,
The-
Yeah,
that's
so-
pretty light.
The multi-purpose room, is that what you're referring to? Yeah, I would say.
It should be fine.
Yeah,
At least the
and,
next
and
5.
there wouldn't be any AC.
That's what I was
Um,
referring to
but
with.
again,
HVAC.
it's location and the way in which we'd be able to hook up to our existing,
Builds character.
yeah. Got a lot of character.
So the third item for discussion was the competitive compensation. Obviously, this is high priority. But it looked like you said there was a process in place to address that with a more permanent solution.
I don't know if you remember back to, when we had to meet after the implementation of, House Bill that went into effect in October. But part of the MOU with the association was that we would form a committee to begin working on, the salary schedule prior to negotiations. So I think there's a mutual agreement. Let's start on this sooner than later. And let's take some time. And right now, again, the plan is that committee will check in once a month. So I envision us having some conversation, going and doing more work, coming back, having more conversation, sharing notes, such that when we actually get to the bargaining table, that committee has teased out or work together to hopefully come to a mutual place that we think we can move forward with. That would be the goal, in my opinion.
Any board member updates? Anybody feel moved to update us on?
What's that for your summer calendar to do a workshop? Like a half day or like a 2 or 3 hours, or is it during the day? Is it let's just have a late evening? Is it, let's do a Saturday morning?
How does that affect sunshine laws?
We would have, I mean.
It would have to be.
It'd be important.
Basically, we're meeting.
Just like a workshop, board workshop.
Workshop. You can get back to me, I guess, but to try to get on the calendar.
Mr. Davis?
Let me add one more thing to the discussion, if you don't mind. About the levy. So I saw both sides. If you add both and you get no's across the board, you'll learn 3 things versus just 2. If you add all 3, or if you add both options, you'll learn no's versus money, right? If they both vote no, do the money. You'll learn if the community supports academics based on the percentage, whether it's still no's across the board. You also learn if they're going to support athletics over academics, right? So if you put both of them on, you'll be able to see where your community supports your district. Plus, you got 3 problems. If any one of those 3 get checked, now you got 2. If you only put 1 on and it's a fail, you still got 3 problems. So you still, if you give them the option, I understand both ways, right? If they say no, they're gonna vote no. If they say yes, you might get academics. But like I said, you got 3. If you put both of them on, you might get lucky, you only have 2 problems. But if you only put 1 on and they vote no, you still got 3 problems. So just something to chew on, but.
I appreciate that. I absolutely agree with you, but we've got one shot.
That's the.
That's it.
We got
That's
one
one
shot
shot. I
left,
agree.
so I mean, I wish we had thought about this back in November when we put it on first, put it on 2 ways.
Do we have any idea if the police are running their levy again? Anybody know?
I'll talk to John.
Last night?
I don't.
I'm gonna ask him to talk to and move it. Is that's killing us too.
Yeah, I think several.
And we don't really have a choice, like November has to be
Yeah.
the date for us.
Yeah, I think better coordination would be good.
Talk to Justin.
Like something I should have said a while ago, but I was just thinking about this. If we put just the elementary on and say we get community support and it passes, it looks like either which way we do this, with that, we're gonna still need the gym on 70. We're still gonna need this gym, right? Like we're the ones at the elementary school, we're still gonna need that basketball court, we're still gonna need all of that. And have we put the necessary, if we thought for that ESSER money to put the money into making sure that that's gonna work no matter what? Because if the thought was that school's kind of gonna go away, is the HVAC and the plumbing, I know the locker rooms for that are not great.
Yeah.
Just another place to think about, maybe putting the money, because that building is gonna have to support us.
Yeah, the CAT committee's kind of toyed with a couple ideas
Mhm.
for what to do with that building afterwards. Definitely, one of the main things was keep the gym and
Yeah, that was the
possibly the
without
locker
the answer.
rooms.
Right.
Do we cut off half the building? Do we make it in communities? There's,
So if we use some of that money, like to show, hey, we're gonna support athletics, via making sure we have this gym available, we're gonna still be good stewards of this building. And use the space we have for athletics here. Just a thought. Not letting that gym fall apart.
That was definitely a priority of the committee, was recognizing the use of that gym and its importance.
And candidly, we still even need to hang on to that
We
building
need
for
to
a
have a
minute.
building just in case.
Yeah,
you know.
there- back to the
the
growth
expansion.
conversation,
Yeah.
on it, we don't know yet what growth will look like for us. But we also can't build beyond what enrollment tells us we need, so.
Everyone thoroughly discussed. I'd like to, at this time, extend an invitation for public participation on non-agenda items. Anyone else have anything else? We'll go to the group. Okay, hearing none, then, item 9 is executive session, a motion to move into executive session to discuss the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against an employee, official, licensee, or student. As a reminder, there will be no voting or regular business after executive session is adjourned. Do I have a motion?
I'm so happy.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Powers.
Yes.
Now can I have a motion? To just, let's just do that. I was ready to just adjourn.
Oh, yeah.
It's
So,
Yeah.
executive session 7:25, that's the wrong time.
7:27. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Down this hall.
That's the.
It's a gigantic room.
Is it really?
It's massive. Yeah.
It's like, what's the joke?
I'm gonna